The smell of barbecue smoke drifting from Franklin's on East 11th Street used to make my mouth water. Now, standing outside my own tech company headquarters on Congress Avenue, watching the Austin skyline shimmer in the Texas heat, I barely notice it anymore. Funny how success changes your appetite for the simple things. 3 years ago, I was sleeping in my truck behind a Walmart off Highway 290. My entire life reduced to a duffel bag and a Purple Heart I couldn't bear to look at. My wife had taken everything else, the house and Circle C, the savings account we'd built over 15 years, even my dignity. Dell Technologies, where I'd poured my engineering soul into their server infrastructure, had shown me the door with a severance check that barely covered 2 months' rent. The war in Afghanistan had taken pieces of my mind I'm still trying to find, scattered somewhere between Kandahar and the Barton Springs pool where I used to swim before deployment, back when water didn't make me think of the Helmand River running red. They say everything's bigger in Texas, including the Falls from Grace. Mine was spectacular, from Staff Sergeant Martinez with 2 Bronze Stars to Miguel Martinez, unemployed, divorced, and talking to himself at the Broken Spoke on South Lamar, nursing a Lone Star beer I couldn't afford. The other veterans at the VA clinic on North Mopac knew that look in my eyes. We all had it. That 1,000-yard stare that sees through the food trucks on Rainey Street straight back to Forward Operating Base Chapman. But here's what they don't tell you about rock bottom. It's solid. It's the one thing that won't betray you, won't fire you, won't leave you for your best friend while you're dodging IEDs 12 time zones away. Rock bottom is honest. And in Austin, a city built on limestone and startup dreams, I found my foundation in the very technology that had cast me aside. The journey from that Walmart parking lot to this corner office overlooking Lady Bird Lake isn't just about money or revenge, though I'd be lying if I said those thoughts didn't fuel some late nights. It's about something deeper, something I learned both in the Hindu Kush Mountains and in the homeless camps under the I-35 overpass. Sometimes the only way forward is straight through hell, and sometimes the best company you can build is one that serves the people everyone else has forgotten.
The morning Dell fired me, Austin was having one of those perfect October days that make people move here from California. 75 degrees, cloudless sky, the kind of weather that mocks your personal disasters. I'd driven to the Round Rock campus like I had every day for 7 years, my 2015 Toyota Tacoma knowing the route better than I did. The security guard, James, who I'd shared breakfast tacos with every Friday, couldn't look me in the eye when I handed over my badge. Budget cuts, my manager, Keith, had said, sliding the paperwork across his desk like he was dealing cards at one of those underground poker games on East 6th Street. Nothing personal, Miguel. Your work's been stellar, especially considering he'd trailed off, not wanting to mention the PTSD episodes, the times I'd had to leave meetings because a door slammed too hard.
The morning Dell fired me, Austin was having one of those perfect October days that make people move here from California. 75 degrees, cloudless sky, a kind of weather that mocks you personal disasters. I'd driven to the Round Rock campus like I had every day for 7 years, my 2015 Toyota Tacoma knowing the route better than I did. The security guard, James, who I'd shared breakfast tacos with every Friday, couldn't look me in the eye when I handed over my badge. Budget cuts, my manager Keith had said, sliding the paperwork across his desk like he was dealing cards at one of those underground poker games on East 6th Street. Nothing personal, Miguel. Your work's been stellar, especially considering he'd trailed off, not wanting to mention the PTSD episodes, the times I'd had to leave meetings because a door slammed too hard or someone dropped a laptop. The Americans with Disabilities Act meant they couldn't fire me for being damaged goods, but budget cuts? That was corporate Austin's favorite loophole. I'd sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, watching employees stream in and out, their Dell badges catching the morning sun. 7 years of debugging server arrays, optimizing cloud infrastructure, leading teams through critical deployments, reduced to a banker's box of personal items, and a laptop they'd let me keep out of pity. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd helped build systems that could handle millions of users, but I couldn't handle a conversation with my wife without seeing shadows of Taliban fighters in the corner of our kitchen. Rachel had already been pulling away for months. I'd come home from my therapy sessions at the Olin E. Teague Veterans Center to find her texting constantly, smiling at her phone with a warmth she hadn't shown me since my second deployment. "It's just work stuff," she'd say. "But marketing managers at Whole Foods don't usually need to work until 2 a.m. The house in Circle C, the one we'd bought with my combat pay and her promotion bonus, felt like a museum of our former life. Pictures from our wedding at the Driscoll Hotel, my dress uniform now hanging in the closet like a ghost, her yoga mat rolled up in the corner of the bedroom I'd been sleeping in less and less. The divorce papers were waiting for me when I got home from Dell that day. She'd timed it perfectly, probably planned it with her lawyer, or with Derek, my former squad mate, who'd been coming over for support while I was at work. In Texas, they call it no-fault divorce, but there was plenty of fault to go around. She got the house, most of the savings, and half my military pension when it kicked in. I got to keep my truck, my tools, and the memories of finding them together on our couch that Thursday. I'd come home early with a migraine. Within a month, I was living in a Motel 6 near Ben White Boulevard, paying weekly rates that ate through my severance faster than brisket disappears at a tailgate. The other residents were a mix of construction workers, people between homes, and folks like me. Veterans who lost their way somewhere between their service and civilian life. We'd nod at each other by the vending machines, recognizing something broken in each other's eyes. The tech interviews were brutal. Austin's tech scene might be booming, but nobody wanted to hire a 42-year-old engineer with a gap in his resume labeled Operation Enduring Freedom and hands that sometimes shook during whiteboard coding sessions. Apple, Indeed, Oracle, they all had younger candidates without baggage, without the need for special accommodations, without the risk of an episode during a product launch. "Thank you for your service," they'd say, then hire the 26-year-old from UT Austin who'd never seen anything die except their houseplants. I started lying on applications, leaving off my military service, but then they'd Google me and find the news story about our unit, the ambush outside Kabul, the 3 men we lost. "Overqualified," they'd say. "Not a culture fit," they'd explain. What they meant was, too much real-world experience, the wrong kind. By December, the Motel 6 was too expensive. That's when I started sleeping in my truck, finding quiet spots in parking lots around Austin. The Walmart on 290 became my regular spot. They didn't hassle you if you parked far from the entrance, and the night security guard, an older Mexican-American man named Carlos, was a Vietnam vet who'd slip me leftover breakfast burritos from the deli. "Been there, hermano. It gets better, or it gets different. Either way, it gets."
January in Austin can surprise you with its cold. Nothing like Afghan winters, but harsh enough when your home is a truck bed. I joined the homeless veterans community under the I-35 overpass near Old Torf Street. Not quite homeless myself, I had the truck, but close enough to understand their language. Tommy, a Marine from Desert Storm, taught me which food trucks gave away leftovers after the bar crowds dispersed. Jackson, Army like me but from Iraq, showed me where to shower at the public rec centers without drawing attention. It was Tommy who mentioned the Austin Technology Incubators veteran program one morning while we shared coffee from 7-Eleven. "They got this thing for vets with tech backgrounds," he said, his hands wrapped around the paper cup for warmth. "Downtown, near the Capitol. Might be worth checking out." I almost didn't go. Pride is a luxury when you're choosing between gas money and food, but it's sometimes all you have left. The ATI building on West 6th Street felt like entering another world. Clean, modern, full of young people with expensive laptops and enthusiasm that bordered on delusion. The veteran program coordinator, Sandra Williams, was different though. Former Air Force. She had that look that said she'd seen things too. Miguel Martinez, she read from my application. Server Infrastructure Specialist, Dell Technologies. 2 tours in Afghanistan. That's exactly the kind of experience we need. She explained the program: free co-working space, mentorship, access to investors, but most importantly, connection to other veteran entrepreneurs trying to build something from their ruins. "We don't want your war stories," she said bluntly. "We want your expertise, the discipline, the problem solving, the ability to function under pressure. That's what makes veterans successful here." I met my co-founder, David Chen, at the first mixer. Another vet, Navy intelligence, who'd been laid off from Samsung Austin Semiconductor. We bonded over free barbecue from Terry Black's and a shared vision that seemed insane at the time: building a cybersecurity company specifically designed to employ and serve veterans. Who better to protect digital infrastructure than people who protected actual infrastructure, David argued, his enthusiasm infectious, even to my cynical mind. We called it Ironwatch Security, working out of the incubator during the day and coding in my truck at night, using Starbucks Wi-Fi and gas station coffee to fuel 18-hour days. David had connections from his Navy days. I had the technical knowledge from Dell and the Army Signal Corps. What we didn't have was money, credibility, or any reason to believe we could compete with established Austin firms. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While updating my LinkedIn profile at the Austin Public Library, I got a message from Colonel Morrison, my former commanding officer, now retired and working for the Texas Military Department. They needed someone to audit their cybersecurity, someone with clearance who understood military systems. The contract wasn't huge, $50,000, but it was enough to get us a real office, a tiny space in a strip mall off Burnett Road, wedged between a taco shop and a nail salon. Working with David was like being back in the unit. We anticipated each other's moves, covered each other's weaknesses. He handled the business side with the precision of someone who'd planned intelligence operations. I built our security protocols with the paranoia of someone who'd seen what happens when systems fail. We hired our first employee, Marcus, a Marine veteran who'd been living at the Arch Resource Center downtown, brilliant at network analysis, but unable to navigate corporate interviews. By March, we had 3 contracts, all from veteran-owned businesses or military-adjacent organizations. It wasn't Dell money, but it was honest work that meant something. Every hire we made was a veteran, not out of charity, but because they understood the stakes. They showed up, they adapted, they didn't quit when things got hard. Our office became a strange kind of therapy group. We didn't talk about our service, but we understood each other's silence. Rachel called once, maybe feeling guilty or curious about my absence from social media. I was coding in the office at 2 a.m., surviving on Torchy's tacos and determination. She said, "I heard you're starting a company." That's ambitious. I could hear Derek in the background, probably in the bed we'd bought together at that furniture store on Research Boulevard. "It's necessary," I told her, and hung up. Some bridges deserve to burn.
If this story is touching you in any way, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep sharing stories like this. And if you'd like to buy us a coffee, visit ko-fi.com/bonds-of-fate.
The email from Michael Dell's office arrived on a Tuesday morning in May while I was teaching Marcus how to implement our new intrusion detection system. I read it 3 times before it registered. Dell Technologies wanted to meet about a potential contract for Ironwatch Security. Not a small business set-aside or a veteran sympathy purchase, but a legitimate enterprise security contract for their cloud services division. "This has to be a mistake," I told David, showing him my phone. We were sitting in our office, which had expanded to include the former nail salon space. 10 employees now, all veterans, all people who had been told they were too damaged for corporate America. David grinned, that same expression he'd had when we'd successfully pitched our first client. "Or maybe," he said, "it's karma, finally getting its GPS fixed." The meeting was in the same Round Rock campus where I had been fired 18 months earlier. I wore my only suit, bought from Goodwill, but carefully pressed. The security guard was still James, and this time he smiled wide. "Mr. Martinez, good to see you back, sir." The badge he handed me said Visitor Ironwatch Security, and I'll admit, I took a photo of it in the elevator. Keith, my former manager, was in the conference room. The look on his face when I walked in was worth every night I'd spent sleeping in parking lots. But it was Michael Dell himself, participating via video from his Austin home, who changed everything. "We've been following Ironwatch's work with the Texas Military Department. Your zero breach record is impressive. More importantly, your hiring practices align with our veteran initiative. We'd like Ironwatch to handle security for our new government cloud contract." The contract was worth $2.8 million annually. I managed to keep my composure through the technical discussions, the procurement details, the timeline negotiations, but when Keith tried to shake my hand afterward, congratulating me on my success, I just looked at him. "Budget cuts, right?" I said quietly, then walked out, leaving him standing there with his hand extended. The Austin American-Statesman ran a story about the contract. Homeless veteran builds $1 million cybersecurity firm. It was picked up by TechCrunch, then Bloomberg. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know about Ironwatch Security, about our 100% veteran employment rate, about how we'd gone from a truck in a parking lot to one of Austin's fastest-growing security firms. The irony was overwhelming. Companies that wouldn't hire me as an engineer were now paying premium prices for my expertise. The same Austin tech scene that had deemed me not a culture fit was now inviting me to speak at conferences. SXSW Interactive wanted me on a panel about veteran entrepreneurship. The Austin Business Journal named me one of their people to watch. We moved offices again, this time to a proper space in North Austin, near the Domain. 40 employees by August, 60 by October. We started Ironwatch Academy, training homeless veterans in cybersecurity, partnering with the Arch and the Salvation Army. Every graduate got a job offer from us or one of our partners. Tommy, my friend from under the overpass, became our facilities manager. Jackson ran our training program. Rachel tried to reconnect when the Bloomberg article came out. She showed up at our office one day, Derek nowhere in sight, wearing the kind of dress she used to wear when we first dated. She said, "I always believed in you," which was perhaps the most dishonest thing she'd ever told me, and that was saying something. I had her escorted out by security, Marcus specifically, who took particular pleasure in the assignment. The real satisfaction came from an unexpected source. One afternoon, while reviewing contracts in my office with windows and a view of the Austin skyline, Sandra from the ATI called. "There's someone here who needs to hear your story," she said. "Another vet, just lost everything. He's sleeping in his car behind a Walmart." I met him that evening, a young sergeant from Fort Hood, recently separated, marriage falling apart, can't find work despite his communications expertise. He had that same look I'd had, that combination of pride and desperation, shame and determination. I hired him on the spot, not for what he could do, but for what he could become. "Why?" he asked, suspicious of kindness the way only the recently broken can be. "Because someone named Carlos gave me breakfast burritos when I had nothing. Because someone named Sandra gave me space to build. Because sometimes the only qualification that matters is understanding what it's like to lose everything and still show up the next day."
Last week, I stood in front of the Dell Technologies campus for a photo shoot with Forbes magazine. From fired to funded, the veteran who revolutionized cybersecurity was their angle. They wanted me to look triumphant, vindicated, maybe a little smug. But standing there, all I could think about was Carlos, the night security guard at Walmart, and whether he knew he'd save my life with those breakfast burritos and 5 minutes of conversation. Ironwatch Security is valued at $50 million now. We have offices in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. We've hired over 200 veterans, people who others deemed too broken, too complicated, too risky. Our client list includes half the Fortune 500 companies in Texas. My bank account has more zeros than I ever imagined, enough to buy 10 houses in Circle C, though I still live in a modest apartment near the office. Some habits from hard times stick with you. But here's what those magazine articles don't capture. Success isn't revenge. It's not about proving Keith wrong or showing Rachel what she lost. It's about Tommy, who now owns a condo and sponsors 3 other veterans in recovery. It's about Marcus, who just bought his daughter her first car. It's about the sergeant from Fort Hood, who's now our San Antonio office manager, married again, building a life on solid ground. I still go to therapy at the Olin E. Teague Center. PTSD doesn't disappear with success. It just becomes more manageable when you're not also fighting poverty. I still see shadows sometimes, still hear sounds that aren't there. The difference is now I have health insurance, a support system, and work that means something beyond a paycheck. The Austin skyline looks different from up here, from this corner office with its view of Lady Bird Lake. The city that once rejected me has become the foundation of something bigger than personal success. Every morning when I drive past that Walmart on 290, I look for Carlos. He retired last year, but I make sure his pension is supplemented by a mysterious monthly Veterans Appreciation bonus that he hasn't figured out comes from me. There's a quote from Napoleon Hill that I keep framed on my desk. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. When I first read it in my truck, hungry and cold, I thought it was bullshit. Now I understand it differently. The benefit isn't always personal. Sometimes the greatest benefit is becoming the person someone else needs when they're at their lowest. We're expanding Ironwatch again, opening a Phoenix office. I'll be hiring another 100 veterans this year. People with stories like mine. People who've been told they're too damaged for corporate America. They're wrong. We're not damaged. We're tested. We're not broken. We're rebuilt. We're not unemployable. We just needed someone to see past the scars to the strength underneath. Rachel married Derek. They live in the house we bought together. I heard through mutual friends that he's unemployed now, that she's supporting them both. I could gloat, but honestly, I'm grateful to them. Their betrayal freed me to become who I was supposed to be. Without that push off the cliff, I never would have learned I could fly. The war in Afghanistan took parts of me I'll never get back. Dell Technologies showed me how disposable corporate loyalty really is. Rachel taught me that love without understanding is just proximity. But Austin, this weird, beautiful, contradictory city, gave me something invaluable, a second chance to build something that matters. Last month, a young woman called our office crying. Her husband, a veteran, had just been fired from his tech job, was drinking too much, talking about ending things. Could we help? I drove to their apartment myself, sat with him for 3 hours, shared my story, offered him a job and a path forward. He starts next week. This is what success really looks like. Not the Forbes articles or the million-dollar contracts, but the ability to answer that call, to be the person I needed when I had nothing left. Every veteran we hire, every life we rebuild, is a small victory against the forces that tried to break us. From my office window, I can see the Colorado River winding through downtown, the same river that's carved its path through Texas limestone for thousands of years. It reminds me that persistence isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just showing up, day after day, wearing away at the rock until you've carved your own path. To everyone reading this who's at their lowest point, sleeping in their car, betrayed by people they trusted, fired from jobs they needed, rock bottom is not your end. It's your beginning. It's where you discover what you're really made of. And sometimes, if you're lucky and stubborn enough, it's where you build your empire. The sign on our building says Ironwatch Security, but for the 200 veterans who work here, it means something more. It means someone saw their value when the world didn't. It means their service and sacrifice weren't forgotten. It means they're not just employed, they're essential. That's the real victory, not that I went from homeless to CEO, but that I got to bring others with me. In the end, that's what service is really about. Not just surviving your own battles, but making sure the person next to you survives theirs too.
If this story spoke to you, if you saw a part of yourself in it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next stories, each one made with heart and honesty. Share this video with someone who might need it today. And if you'd like to support this project, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/bonds-of-fate. It's a small gesture that helps us keep creating stories filled with soul and truth.